to God's laws, he's a blasphemer, and there would be no reason for God to come to the defense of this man who is a blasphemer according to God's own law. You might say, well, wait a minute, but God did resurrect him from the dead, and that proves that he was not a blasphemer. But notice that we cannot reverse the logic. We cannot assume the very point which is at question. If we ask, how do we know that Jesus is true? Dr. Craig and others say, because God raised him from the dead. And if God did not raise him from the dead, we should conclude that he was a blasphemer. The only reason we could know he was true is because God raised him from the dead. So you cannot assume that God raised him from the dead before proving it. And in order to prove it, you have to assume it. So there is no way of getting out of this circular lock, and we are left with Jesus who died in that particular way. And in that case, nobody should believe in him. But in that case, why did the disciples believe in him? This is Dr. Craig's question to me. And I say the disciples believed in Jesus because they believed in him before the crucifixion. He had made such a strong impact in their lives that they should never stop believing in him. And in fact, they didn't stop. The Gospel according to Luke in chapter 24, verse 19 shows that even after the crucifixion, the disciples continued to believe in Jesus as a great prophet. They lost hope that he was the Messiah who would sit on the throne of David, of course, but they still continued to believe that he was a great prophet. Notice that the crucifixion scene itself inspired faith. Because at the crucifixion scene, the Roman centurion announced faith. And the Gospel according to Luke adds that the multitudes went away beating their breasts. You can just imagine these people going away saying, what have we done here? They were convinced about Jesus, even at the crucifixion scene. These were not people who thought that Jesus was a blasphemer. So, to sum up then, the Jesus of the Quran is entirely believable. He's not a bland Jesus. He's a marvelous Jesus. And that Jesus, who is presented in the Quran in its main outline, fits naturally with historical studies on Jesus. The best reconstructions on Jesus show that he was a Jewish prophet, speaking about the end times, calling people back to faith in God. And this is indeed what Muslims believe him to be. If I am to leave the Quran aside and turn to the Bible, I see that there is an inherent problem that is irresolvable, and in that case there is no reason for believing in Jesus. Dr. Craig himself has written more than once that if Jesus did not rise, then Christianity is a fairy tale that no rational person should believe. So in that case, one has to present very strong evidence to prove that Jesus did rise from the dead, and I do not believe that we have seen that reasonable evidence tonight. Thank you very much.